David writes, hey, guys, Corey, as a resident of Hoover, Alabama, I know you're just kind of thankful for the gift of experience our Hades-like heat and outrageous humidity. Question for you boys. As the hype increases for LSU this September, what player or team stat line would guarantee an FSU win?
Turnovers?
Oh, you're going with the standard statistical norm that if you win the turnover battle, you're going to win the game.
I think they're pretty darn evenly matched.
Yeah.
I think they're pretty evenly matched teams. And, if you get 3 turnovers and don't turn it over, you are going to win the game almost certainly. For either team, I think. I think that's how evenly matched they are.
I think if Florida State rushes for 300 yards, I feel good about their chances. All right.
Me too.
I'll go.
Well said, Ira.
I'll go Trey Benson 100 yards. Trey Benson 100 yards on the ground. I think Florida State.
Your head's where my head's at. I think if Florida State's able to keep the ball away from LSU and is able to do so by running the ball, wearing down a defensive line, then I'm gonna go that route. Because I think they are evenly matched, and I think I don't want this to come down to he who has the ball last.
It came down to that last year, and the Noles were fine. It was perfect. You didn't have to worry at all. What about 3 pick sixes?
Okay, that's a good number.
You like their chances?
Yeah, I think they're going to win.
Tony writes, hey, guys, first off, great job with the coverage in Ireland. Obviously, he's speaking to Ira and myself.
Correct.
And Aslan. Yeah.
Well, obviously Aslan, but I just meant of the 3 of us that are here,
Right,
Corey didn't do anything.
I didn't do anything at all.
No. Looks like it would be fun as well as an educational trip. There needs to be a Seminole Headlines After Dark wrap-up video from Charlotte with Guinness involved since Corey wasn't in Ireland. My question is, if there was a weakness in this offense, what would it be? I hear of people talking about how good the offense is and the weak points about the defense, but there will be times during the season when the offense may struggle a little bit to get going. See NC State last year. Thanks, just curious. All right, Tony, good job, buddy. Weakness on the offense. You got a weakness on the offense, guys?
Not really. Do you? I mean, they're going to run the ball well. They have a good quarterback, and they have maybe like depth at receiver if one of your 2 big guys goes down.
Depth at center. I think they're a little worried, but they don't have anybody else to snap the ball.
Yeah, I mean, depth at center could be. I mean, a receiver, I think, some people have brought up the fact that Pokey Wilson had a lot of clutch catches last year, and now you don't have him. But I think you have so many other guys. I think that's not a problem. My one thing, and it was something that I came up once during spring, and the only reason I bring it up is because it did happen once during the spring, and it happened a couple times last year, including the game he mentioned, was where when the offense wasn't operating well, like there were times where I felt like Jordan got kind of frustrated. And we saw it once during the spring. He may be totally past that. It may not be a problem at all, but he wants to be – I mean, he's at the point now where he wants this offense to run perfectly, and when the receivers aren't playing great or things aren't operating well, like I want to see him not get frustrated by that because I think that I thought that reared its head a little bit last season and maybe once during the spring.
He should be of the maturity level now, having learned his lesson from the NC State game, right? That you can't do that. Certainly can't show it. You can be frustrated, but you can't be expressive about it on the sideline the way he was in that NC State game. I'd like to think that as the unquestioned leader now of this team, that he would not do that. You can do it in practice, screen people down. In fact, it wouldn't bother me. It wouldn't bother me at all if in practice they were having a rough day in the buildup towards LSU. And we actually saw Jordan Travis yell at somebody for being in the wrong spot or yelling at an offensive line. It wouldn't bother me at all if he did that.
I want to see him yell at Norvell. Tell him to take a hike. He's got it. I think I think Ira brings up a good point. It wasn't just NC State. There were times last year where the offense kind of spiraled for 3 or 4 or 5 drives where it didn't get going, including Wake, including Clemson for a stretch, but including Oklahoma. The offense didn't play well at all to start the Oklahoma game, and what was encouraging about the end of that game, clearly, is the offense found itself, righted the ship, and ended up scoring 35 points or whatever it was, and he threw for 418 yards. So that was a good thing to see, that when it wasn't clicking early, they still made it click late. And I would say the thing they did awful last year, horrible, really the last 2 years that they have to be better at, because they're going to go for it a lot, you got to be better at fourth down. They're one of the worst teams in the country on fourth down conversions. Get better at that because you're going to go for it a good bit.
Yeah, and your red zone efficiency gets a lot better if your field goal kicker can make a kick too. I know he's considered special teams, but they made some weird decisions in the red zone last year. And if you're just looking at touchdowns in the red zone as opposed to when you look at total points, they left a ton out there. So being more efficient in the red zone, I suppose you could throw that on the plate. But the offense really doesn't have too much in the way of weaknesses. Josh writes, is it possible that FSU might try to overpower teams in the passing game more than on the ground? With elite size at tight end and wide receiver, it seems FSU could go empty and just muscle secondaries all the way down the field. If opponents sell out to stop the pass, one of the tight ends can play running back. Quarterback can run it from 70 yards out. Yeah, you're presenting, Josh, you're presenting what we see as the biggest problem for defenses is pick your poison, man. If you want to gear up to stop, if you want to drop everybody and play dime all the time, they're going to run the ball down your throat. And if you want to come up and stop the run, they're going to win individual matchups because they have a couple of guys that are 6'7" and other guys that are fleet of foot. And also those one-on-one battles with these tight ends, you're going to have a problem. And if you try to go man and you turn your back to Jordan Travis, he can take off. So this really isn't an offense that, barring injuries, should have any problems moving the football and scoring points, period. Just really isn't.
And Norvell has shown a proclivity, and a good one, to be able to take what the defense gives him, to be good at it. He can throw for 418 like he did against Oklahoma, and then they won games this year where Jordan threw for like 140, or last year when Jordan threw for like 150 yards. Like, they can win a variety of ways, and they're going to be better and more talented this year. So going back to the question from last segment, there isn't a real weakness just looking at it from a roster standpoint. There's not a lot of weaknesses on the offense.
By the way, I like this question. Who starts in the slot versus LSU? Vendravius Jacobs?
That's a good question. There's a lot of good candidates.
He's going to have a whole lot of what for on that night, because that's a true freshman having to play in that game, maybe?
Yeah, I don't know. I think they got some good candidates, man. Like, obviously Ja'Kai Douglas has played a lot of football. That LSU game, to me, makes these questions different than they would be if they were playing the Citadel or whoever. I mean, it's just, are you going to put out a guy like Destin Hill, even, who I think is going to be a candidate later as the year goes on? I think Destin Hill, Vendravius Jacobs can certainly be candidates. But if Winston Wright is back to what he used to be, if Ja'Kai Douglas is, healthy and good to go, those might make more sense against LSU. I mean, it's just a lot to ask a true freshman against LSU in their first college game to go out there and be a key player.
The good news is they do have bodies. They are versatile. They can line up in a lot of different ways. You can double tight this thing if you want with what they now have at that position, which was not an option before. So Jaheim Bell could be there. I mean, you have a lot of things that you can do. I would tell you that I think early in camp, and here we are, it's happening, Nair. It's happening, buddy.
Days away.
It's happening. We're going to be zeroed in on Winston Wright. We've been very patient. And this isn't to say that we're mad at anybody.
Or disappointed.
Anything like that. But they have been very deliberate and careful, as one would be with a guy coming off of the injuries that he had due to an unfortunate traffic accident that was not his fault. But they need him to be all the way back, all right? He was a guy that played big-time college football in the Power 5 level. He was the leading receiver at West Virginia, and he came here. He was going to – by all accounts, we thought he was going to light it up. Then the unfortunate accident happened. They have had to wait for him to rehab and get strong again and begin to believe and to cut and do those things. They obviously did not let him loose in spring. He ran, but he was not but it was not the full, are you ready to go and play a game against LSU? We got to see that. When they get into pads, we got to see that. And if we don't, then we know we're going to have to look at the other options there. And one of those options is a freshman. Another one of those options, as you mentioned, is a guy that's a veteran player, but I'm not sure they want to start him in the slot necessarily for a game like this. So it's going to be fascinating. It's going to be fascinating to see